Good morning, one and all, and welcome back to another week, another day, another show here at the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and Francesca. Wait a second, we've got an audible at the last second. Jayar Jackson coming in. How's it going, Jayar?
I appreciate the vocabulary there, John. It's quite
Football
fitting,
reference.
as a matter of fact, because you know what? The Bills should have called a couple of audibles on defense last night, is what I think. Don't
I think
you,
we
John?
both think that. I think everyone is thinking that. I watched a little bit of that game, but I wasn't paying a ton of attention because I had my daughter with me. But anyway, yes, we're gonna be talking about the Bills, about the Eagles. We're gonna be talking about none of that. In fact, we're gonna be talking about politics because there's a lot going on here inside of the United States, here in Congress, where they might be eating one of their members into the center of the sun. That'll be coming up soon. But he declares that he's not going anywhere. We've got more deep fakes being spread as if they were true of politicians. That's always fun. And if you're watching the live show in the aftermath, we will have the return of the Damage Report Court. So Justices Iadarola and Jackson will be ruling on a little case involving parenting decisions. So as I warned you all a couple of weeks ago, more and more of the show is gradually going to become about parenting, and that is the case. So get ready for that. I don't know why. It's probably a seasonal thing. It doesn't have anything to do with my life, but all of that is coming up. Conspiracy theories. Is it Nikki Haley's time to shine? We're gonna debate that. So we got a lot to talk about. So all of you out there that are on a platform where this makes any sense, hit the like button. You can share the stream. If you're on the podcast, just raise the roof. Maybe it doesn't help us algorithmically, but it might feel good. Not if you're driving. Keep your hands on the wheel. But with all that said, JR, are you ready to start this thing?
Roof is being raised. Hasn't happened since 1997, but we'll try it.
He's not even listening to the podcast and he's doing it. Anyway, let's jump into it.
One of the people who is commenting on it on Truth Social is the guy who is the head of, he wrote The Art of the Deal, and he's not happy with the deal. And here's what he has to say. He says, has anybody noticed that Hamas has returned people from other countries, but so far has not returned one American hostage? I mean, I think a lot of people believe we probably would have American hostages out. And maybe this whole thing wouldn't have even happened had Donald Trump been in office.
First of all, little fact check. He didn't write The Art of the Deal. His name's on the cover of The Art of the Deal, but he didn't write it. We've known that for literally decades. Second, and arguably more important, what in the hell are you talking about? If only Donald Trump were in office, we would have had American hostages released. We've had American hostages released. In the immediate aftermath of what you just saw there from Fox and Friends, another hostage was released, notably without Donald Trump having to become president. Isn't that weird? But just to wind it back a little bit, 2 American hostages, Judith Renan and her daughter Natalie, were released by Hamas back in October. So, we can't always respond to breaking news immediately, but I have a feeling Fox and Friends could have known about the developments of October. And on Sunday, Hamas went on to release 17 more hostages, including 4-year-old Avigail Adan, an American-Israeli dual citizen as well. Now, there were a number of hostages released over the last few days. We're gonna give you all of those updates. And I know that it's stupid to focus on this, JR, who's with me on the show, but like the need to make everything a thing about Donald Trump. If only Donald Trump were there, we'd have the situation that we already have that we're pretending we don't have. And there's no retraction coming. There's no like plaudits that are gonna come to Joe Biden for the limited American role in these hostage negotiations. The good news remains, but their need to constantly fake that it isn't happening is just so annoying.
Did you know that nothing would have happened if Donald Trump was in office? Except a bunch of things happened when Donald Trump was in office. But if in case Donald Trump wasn't in office when COVID hit, it'd be like COVID would never hit if Donald Trump was in office, even though it did. You can even say that this conflict would not have happened if Donald Trump was in office. Ukraine would not have happened if Donald Trump was in office. Anything that happens bad in the world, you can claim it just wouldn't have happened if Donald Trump was in office with absolutely no reason for saying so. Just say it because his presence is peace. Sound a little bit like a cult to you? Maybe like it's a religion, like they're worshiping a guy, that his presence can change the effects of the world and things that are around us. That's their belief system, no matter what. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Donald Trump would have fixed it. He said that in his speech. I alone can fix it. And they've believed it ever since. And as many people laughed at it and went, what is he talking about? This sounds like a dictator. That's exactly what he's talking like. And he wants people like this woman to believe this, spread that word, and continue to push this same narrative. If I'm there, none of it would have happened. Why? Why?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense if you think about it. But dear viewers, have you considered not thinking about it or thinking about anything? Don't think. We'll just tell you some stuff. Some of it might be true, some of it might not be. That's really a much more comfy way to live, don't you think? Just ignore the things that he didn't fix when he was president. Ignore it going forward if he gets back into office. And don't acknowledge the things that are getting better. But anyway, I'm gonna set aside Fox and Friends. They're morons. Here is the update. And it's developing fast because there have been now 3 rounds of hostages being released, which is good news. It's expected that throughout the course of Monday, today, when we're filming this, 11 more hostages are expected to be released. That's good news. How many hostages are still being held by Hamas? You get different numbers from different sources. It is somewhere between 170 and 185 are still being held. But the breaking news right before we were going live was that leadership of Israel and Hamas have agreed to extend the temporary truce that they've had for an additional 2 days. And so the agreement prior to this had been that extensions of the truce were going to be accompanied with more hostages being transferred. So, if they're sticking to that, and I assume that they would be, that means more, 10, 20, perhaps more hostages being transferred over the next couple of days. And that at the end of the day is the most important thing, that the hostages are being returned, that prisoners, we can get into the individual charges and everything on the Palestinian side, are being returned. I really question whether many of the women and children that are being held should be, but they are being transferred as well. And so that is good news. There's a lot of attempts to spin it, but families are being made whole. And while that doesn't erase all the trauma, that is the important thing, at least from my point of view. Jayar, what do you think?
Yeah, there's we see the hierarchy of the way that we like to see folks released in any kind of conflict. If anyone that's taken captured or missing overseas that's an American, we know that. So also, I guess back a little bit on the complaints about how many Americans have been released. We're talking about folks, people. So if there's folks that are prisoners, that are held hostages, that are potentially being tortured, and families are not unable to really go on each day as they think about their family members, and then you hear someone just say, "But are they American? Because if they're not American, I really don't care." How heartless! Again, how heartless! How much do you actually care about the people that have been held hostage since October 7th? And then when folks are then being released, you start scanning and checking whether or not what their citizenship is and whether or not that's good enough. It just keeps going no matter what. The main thing we continue to illustrate as in our humanity is that it's all hierarchical, and it's a matter of whether or not it's close enough to us to be worth something. And if it's further and further from what we think is worthy, the less and less we think that life is worth anything.
By the way, I'm very glad that you mentioned that because I allowed myself to be sucked into the ridiculous way that part of the spin that I was talking about is that they have to have that hierarchy. And look, part of it is that they honestly do value certain lives more than others. That's 100% true. But it's also another way to spin it where, lots of hostages being transferred, but not the right hostages are being transferred, except that they are. You're lying about that. And what about when all of the American hostages are transferred? Well, then I guess there's no way for Biden to do anything good because the real hostages can't be transferred anymore. And by the way, it is, again, I'm so glad that you pointed out the hierarchy because Fox has been using this opportunity for the past month or two to pretend that they are not part of a wildly anti-Semitic political movement. But as Jayar is pointing out, they really don't seem to care about the Israeli hostages all that much. Suddenly it's only the American ones that count. And so weird how they snuck that in. But anyway, I see some people saying that they think that the extension was for longer. I'm just going based off of what I saw coming out of the Qatari mediators to the deal. Supposedly it's 2 more days. We'll see. It's possible. It's developing. A lot is happening today, and a lot could be happening in the near future if certain elected officials get their way. Here's Tom Cotton.
We have elite special operations forces who are specifically trained in hostage rescue. I do think we have to be deferential to the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Forces about the tactical situation on the ground. But if American military forces are called upon and can provide a viable solution to get out American citizens and the citizens of Israel or other nations, then we have to be open to that. But again, it's not just those small special operations units that we have trained. We have 2 aircraft carriers in the region. We've increased the number of troops and aircraft we have in the region. Yet Hamas is still so contemptuous of President Biden that it hasn't yet released American hostages.
Again, that's a lie from Tom Cotton. American hostages have and continue to be released, but that also accelerated pretty fast there. Tom Cotton saying U.S. Special Forces could go in to rescue the hostages. This is not a compound that hostages are being held in. You send in SEAL Team 6, you storm the compound, and then they're out. That would already potentially be a disaster considering the situation. We have no idea where the remaining hostages are being held throughout the entirety of Gaza. So what he is saying, and I'm assuming that he knows that, is U.S. Special Forces in Gaza. Just send them in to Gaza. And then I thought, oh my God, that's crazy, sending the special. And then I realized, I don't have time to pause on that because he's not interested in sending in special forces. He says, we have a lot of troops on these aircraft carriers. We just use our military. The aircraft carriers are gonna launch some planes. I guess we'll do some bombing. We're gonna send in not just special forces, but the troops. We're going to invade Gaza, while being deferential to the IDF and all that. But if they want our help, then we will invade Gaza. Because the experience of these many weeks of the horror of the situation there and the many civilian casualties is not enough for Tom Cotton. Now, it's not enough that we sell or provide arms that are used to slaughter thousands and thousands of children and other civilians. No, now we need to also be the ones dropping them. We need to be pulling the trigger that kills a civilian. That is the only thing that was like the bloodlust of Senator Tom Cotton. And thankfully, he's not in charge. He's not making the decisions. The people who are in charge in America are making bad enough ones on their own. But JR, there is never a situation that some of them will not try to exploit to result in more civilian casualties.
Back to more of the same stuff. And also, actually, the number one thing there is just to bring up the Biden thing. Biden doesn't really care about American citizens, or actually, Hamas doesn't respect him enough. That's another that goes back to the same thought process of saying, if Trump was in office, nobody would do anything because everyone's petrified of Donald Trump. Or they liked to use him because he's very easy to be used. Again, I reference it every time. When he was running for president, there was intelligence reports about the way that foreign leaders approach Donald Trump, and it's the way anybody should. Butter him up, kiss his butt a little bit, make him think that you like him. He will give you gold. That's what people do. It's not that they're afraid of him. It's he's easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Just stroke his ego and he will hand you the keys to the castle. He's illustrated that in the way he talks about people that kiss his ass. And after they do that, then he says they're his best friend. He loves them and he's gonna give them anything that they want. And they go, loser. By the way, Tom Cotton there and folks that like him say, we know exactly where they are. We have to do is send this, actually they don't say we have to send these folks in, and they'll very intricately find the folks that we're looking for. They just say we know what's going on still so we can keep enough confidence and support for these types of exercises. But if he says something like, we're not really sure, we still need to figure it out, then we see the kind of bombing that we've been seeing for several weeks. We go, well, why are you guys just bombing if you don't know exactly what you're doing? It seems pretty indiscriminate and you could be killing anyone, including hostages, right? Yep. You can't say that either. So you kind of dance both sides of this whole line and try and say, we don't know, but we do know. But we do know if we did know. And if we did know, we would then do know. But since we know, everything's okay. So stop asking questions.
I hope
it's Don Rumsfeld.
Critical mass. No, it's 100%. I was instantly thinking of Donald Rumsfeld as well in the run up to the war in Iraq. But I hope that, I know obviously Democrats, I would assume, are not going to be in favor of what Tom Cotton is saying. But there's more Republicans, right? Isn't Marjorie Greene against this sort of thing? She's against these wars, except for some that she's totally in favor of and she wants to invade Mexico. But other than that, isn't she against war, everyone? Well, perhaps we'll find out. I just love the idea of looking at what's been happening there, the horror of it, and thinking, how can we get in on that? But man, some people are monsters in human flesh. Anyway, speaking of monsters, let's talk about a terrible story much closer to home. Police in Burlington, Vermont have apparently arrested a suspect in the shooting of 3 students of Palestinian descent that we now know is being investigated as a possible hate crime. You have to say the word possible, even though really seems likely. I'm just gonna say that. Here are the 3 victims of this possible hate crime. You're seeing they're identified by the families as Hasham Aratani, Kinan Abdelhamid, and Tassin Ahmed. Shot and wounded this weekend by a white man with a handgun while they were walking near the University of Vermont. 2 of the victims were wearing Palestinian keffiyehs, a traditional headdress. Jason J. Eaton, a 48-year-old, is the suspect, expected to be arraigned at some point today. At this point, I don't know how much evidence they have that this is the person, and simply because they see someone, simply because they're going to arraign them, doesn't mean that that's definitely the person. So let's wait and find out. It's possible there will be developments as the day goes on. But here is what we do know about the actual crime. Apparently, they told family members they were speaking a hybrid of English and Arabic before the man shot at them 4 times without saying anything before the attack. 2 of the victims were in stable condition. A third sustained much more serious injuries, apparently, in that particular case. The bullet nicked the victim's spine. So I had heard that there was a loss of sensation. I don't know if that's expected to be a permanent thing, but obviously, regardless, this is absolutely horrific, and I can't imagine the experience that those 3 individuals and their families are having. John Murad is the chief of the Burlington Police, and I'll end with a quote from him saying, "In this charged moment, no one can look at this incident and not suspect that it may have been a hate-motivated crime." The only other alternative is, well, we do live in an awful, chaotic world. I suppose in America, you could just randomly, without saying anything, shoot 3 people for all sorts of different reasons. We live in hell. But I think that the most likely reason is that they were heard speaking a mix of English and Arabic. They were wearing, an article of clothing that is associated with that region. And America being America, you can do the hateful math. Jayar, what do you think?
You mentioned, the confirmation of it, or whether or not people think it's a hate crime or not. Usually, if we have discussions about what someone's motivation was when it looks like it could be something, because you see a group of Palestinian guys or black men or Asian folks, any of those types of things that we've seen, and then the discussion about hate crime or not is to see if we can prevent more things like this from happening. So if it is a hate crime, we want to be quick to say, look, this is what's happening. Look at how the energy of our society is changing, where people want to start going for doing things like this because they think it's acceptable from the way that many people speak, from our leadership to just our society in general. And we want to put like some clamps on it. Many times people, I think, overlook that and think that it's just someone trying to wag their finger at one particular group so we can demonize you. No, we want to stop these things from happening. It always comes from a preventative approach. So in this case, it's kind of harder, or I think a lot less effective to do that. I think it looks like it's a hate crime. But the thing is we've got so many people that are openly hateful lately. It's kind of not going to quell that from us understanding this problem. Yes, still prosecute the culprit to the fullest extent under any hate crime laws, not to change any of that or to not go as hardcore. Mm-hmm. But the whole point is to try and keep people from thinking a certain way or thinking it's more acceptable to do this type of stuff. We've been pushing that for weeks, months, years, decades. It's not like that's going to be a big change here. We need to start looking at the way we talk about these things and the way that our leadership goes about it and then presents it to us. Because that's where a lot of the conflict is now being enhanced. Because people see and understand certain things that's a lot different than what we're seeing and being told. So that's the big generator of a lot more of the hate here to me. But still, things like this, we might see more and more of. How do we stop that? I don't know if it's just through hate crime legislation. Maybe it could be more with we even talk about this stuff.
And even the legislation obviously is used as like a cultural, lightning rod. This story is being widely reported, which is good. The developments are being reported. Apparently, the individual, Jason Eaton, has virtually pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder. The most evidence I can see is that he was detained near the site. I'm guessing that they have strong evidence, but we'll see. I do wonder, there's been all this talk obviously about the rise in hate, both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, following October 7th. One would think that in addition to the fatal stabbings and the other attacks that we've seen, this would be a significant part of that conversation. I am curious to see whether in certain areas of the internet and traditional media, there's an attempt to sort of just let this one slide by and not mention that, yeah, this is the country we live in. You see incidents like this, it's disgusting and becoming all too common. Okay, with that said, we do need to take our first break of the show. We're gonna take a trip to DC when we get back and see, will George Santos be in the House for much longer? We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. First comment that I saw in the members' comment was from Gabby. It says, yay, JR in a Red Sox hat, yay. Are you a Red Sox fan?
This is the one I was talking about. I don't know who sent this to me.
Oh, okay, that one is, okay.
Yes,
I maybe could have figured out if I looked at the hat long and hard and thought for a while that that's what it was.
Oh, and also,
Anyway.
yeah, I mean, why would you have no reason to remember that. But also the main thing you should understand is Dodgers to Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. There's no Red Sox in my brain. Keep it real. But I'll rock the hat every once in a while.
Yay, Dodgers. I went to a Dodgers game. It was fun.
You've been
What?
changed.
I have. Kaladin had said, ignorance is bliss, brain dead is the best. Just chant that and you'll find yourself in the middle of a Trump rally. You just instantly are teleported there. I love this message from Apollo Racer. It says, Trump wouldn't be in office if Trump were in office because he'd be golfing. Yeah, it's funny too, because some members of Fox Friends have been willing to be a little bit more critical of Donald Trump. Like, I feel like Ducey occasionally slips something in. Even Kilmeade occasionally seems like he wants to move on from it, but then they bring in like the Weekend crew and it's like we're in the thick of 2016 again. Anyway. Okay, Gabby also went on to say, if Trump were still in office, is like the right wing's version of thanks Obama, but in the opposite direction and not satirical. Yeah. Okay, over on YouTube, Cloud Dragon gifted a membership. Thank you, Cloud Dragon. Ruby Dooby Doo Dragon gifted a membership as well. Thank you to both of you. Very nice of you. Spanking Spider Dragon member for 15 months says, loving the look, Johnny Pie, sexy as always. I apologize to the audience. Don't you guys realize Trump is God? He can do no wrong and is our only savior. Oh, hey, JR. Thank you. There's a lot fit in there. I want to give JR a chance to respond to this message from Luis Belmont show. CM Punk returns Saturday night and there's already drama ensuing. Seth Rollins needs to grow up regardless if it's a work or not. What do you think? You're muted, by the way.
Damn. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everyone just calm down. Yes, it's a little fireworky right now. I don't see much of a positive result, but you know what? It's going to be fine.
I am not a fan. I mean, I can't say that I'm not a fan because I've literally never watched him. I just don't. It doesn't seem necessary. There's a lot going on, and I'm happy with what's going on. We don't need more. Anyway, okay. Over on Twitch, Pagan Dragon has been here for 29 months. Says, thank you, John, for helping me understand the idiocy of our government. Thank you. We try. Oh, quick reminder, so I don't forget. We are still doing $100 Blue Apron gift cards for the best member subscriber message. Something insightful, something funny, pithy, send them in, and you might get that gift card. Irish Welch Dragon, been here for 6 months on Twitch. Thank you for being here. Dill Robert for 4 months says 4 months on Bezos Buckage. It must be big news Monday if JR is here. Are you going to talk about the big return from Survivor Series? Welcome back, R-Truth. I actually don't know who R-Truth is.
R-Truth is he did a little promo. He's a wrestler that always does like freestyle rapping when he comes out to his music. So he had a quick bit backstage during all the little promos for all the wrestlers who weren't wrestling. And he hadn't been around in a while. Again, I know all this because my kid. I never want to know who that guy was.
Yeah, whenever they would go to like the backstage stuff and it was like an ad for Pringles or something, I would just turn it off. Anyway, Perf Cell's been here for 34 months. Thank you. Chubbles for 12. Key John for 42. Says, I hope you Americans had a lovely Turkey Day. I did. It was very fun. Small, just my immediate family. But it says, greetings from Germany. Time for Christmas markets, Dragons. Christmas markets. I got to look that up. We'll be right back.
Black Friday stuff, I guess. Hey, John, how was your home-cooked dinner? Sorry, I had to cut you off. I had to be the first to talk here because we wouldn't have gotten to it. How was your home-cooked dinner, John?
I didn't home cook my dinner. I didn't even know that you knew that. Why are you shaming me for going to Gelson's? How was your home-cooked dinner?
I don't know why you think it's shaming. I asked the question because I care.
Okay, well, we did not home cook. I mean, I made my delicious marshmallow yam cranberry casserole. I did do that, and it was delicious. So
he didn't bring it into the studio, you guys. Just
I did not, but I did bring a cake to the studio today. So at least I'm contributing. Okay, I'm trying to be part of the solution. Anyway, with that said, lots more to get to. Everyone, hit the like button if you're just joining us live, and let's jump into this.
As we joke around a lot in my circles, we're like, oh my God, you were the it girl. Everybody wanted you until nobody wanted me. Within the ranks of the United States Congress, there's felons galore. There's people with all sorts of shisty backgrounds. And all of a sudden, George Santos is the Mary Magdalene of United States Congress.
Okay, so George Santos is determined to end this thing, this weird spectacle, with not an ounce of respectability, self-respect, decency, or anything. And why would he? That's not how he started it. That's not how he comported himself in the last 2 years. So he's gonna go out by setting it all on fire, calling himself the it girl, calling himself Mary Magdalene, and making, during all of this insanity, a couple of acceptable points that we will talk about. But the reason that we're talking about this is that you need to know that this could be the week where it ends. It is expected that there will be another vote to expel George Santos from office. This will be the third. He would be, I believe, the 5th or 6th ever to be expelled. And while the first 2 attempts failed, this one seems like it has a significantly higher chance. It's not a lock, but he is acting as if he believes he's about to be expelled. He had more to say, saying, I don't care. You want to expel me? I'll wear it like a badge of honor. I'll be the 6th expelled member of Congress in the history of Congress. And guess what? I'll be the only one expelled without a conviction. Is that better? That it was so damning and you looked so bad that we didn't even need a conviction to expel you in this hypothetical? I don't think it's better. He says he will defend himself to the end of time. And he goaded House Ethics Committee Chair Michael Guest to stop being a P blankety blank Y and force a vote on his expulsion resolution, because this is sort of like a you can't fire me, I quit. But you might be fired, George Santos. And I want to get to a couple of the points that he made that were okay. But how do you overall make? What do you make of the style with which he's entering his possible last week?
As George Santos may, or Anthony DeVolder may. He's the it girl, all the attention's around him. He still can't stop thinking about himself as far as in that mindset. There's a reason you're the it girl. There's a reason why everybody's talking about you, because you lied your way into Congress, and then you lied your way during Congress, and you apparently can lie your way out. And yes, we're gonna get to some of those good points, but this is the only way he can go about it. There's the only way MAGA types of folks can go about things. When you're in trouble, there's something going on that people aren't looking at you too favorably about, then you have to talk about how you're the victim. And I can't believe they do this to me. All they did was look at all the illegal activities that I was involved in, and then they're mad at me about it. What's the matter with them? Which then leads to his next point, John.
You want to talk about what he thinks about his colleagues?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we should talk about that. He sort of alluded to it in the video that you saw, that he's surrounded by felons. And look, we have talked about that throughout this, that like, why is it that it seems like he should be kicked out when the stuff that other people do seems substantively worse? I mean, he's just a liar. First of all, that's not true. That narrative has never been true. He is a liar. He's also a criminal, or at least an alleged criminal. So it is not just his misstatements about the Baruch volleyball team. He also is alleged to have committed a lot of crimes. So let's bear that in mind. But that said, there are other people there that have seemingly committed worse crimes. But there's also, it's just so out there and so obvious. And he was so careless that I would love if anyone who's demonstrably a liar or a criminal gets kicked out of the government. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. That doesn't happen. Maybe with him, it is so comical that we can get rid of him. So that's the approach that I take. So I get why he might be frustrated, but that's just the situation we have. Now, that said, he wants to, much like Madison Cawthorn, sort of reveal stuff on his way out. So George Santos, as he's possibly going to be expelled, says, I have colleagues who are more worried about getting drunk every night with the next lobbyist than they're gonna screw and pretend like none of us know what's going on and sell off the American people, not show up to vote because they're too hungover, whatever the reason is, or not show up to vote at all and just give their card out like effing candy for someone else to vote for them. This dude is not mad at all. If you take anything away from this, he's not mad. And he's laughing, in fact, just out of frame. They all act like they're in ivory towers with white pointy hats and they're untouchable. What's with the white? When I hear white pointy hats, I think bad, not, like an academic. A white pointy hat. Is he like thinking of wizards?
Is that like clergy? Like, the Catholic, I don't know. Are those pointy hats?
The ivory tower is supposed to be like elite academia. I think he's thinking of wizards. Anyway, within the ranks of the United States Congress, there's felons galore. There's people with all sorts of shisty backgrounds. I don't even like that. But anyway, he's talking about them. They're all drunks. They're all out sleeping with lobbyists. Like, this does feel to me like the Madison Cawthorn thing, where he was exposed to some of this. And now he's sort of setting fire to them on his way out. I don't know. The issue is that he's such a liar, Jayar. How do we know which of this we can really trust?
Looks like going nuclear only happens once they see themselves going out. You made a good comparison to Madison Cawthorn, who once he started going nuclear, whether accidental or by leaked video, it was the thing that broke the camel's back, put it that way. It's what finally made enough Republicans go, okay, we can't with this guy anymore. Which then, makes your ears perk up and go, well, this is the thing that finally makes you guys go upset. There's things that have been publicly stated, directly asked to folks, where only folks like Mitt Romney came out from the beginning saying, kick him out of here. So for everyone else that doesn't seem to be on that train, including the leadership at the time, Kevin McCarthy even, over and over again, current leadership now doing a Kevin McCarthy as well, they cared about his vote all the way up until he starts, I'm not gonna say it like it only just right now, because there was other New York Republicans that came out ahead of him. But once they know that enough people have turned on them, that's when they go to these types of attacks. Maybe it's just the most salacious, so it's easy to throw that out there. Or maybe there's always some percentage of truth to it. Because again, there's a reason why Congress doesn't really do all that much, and many people hate them in general. Just outside of the propaganda from party to party type of fights. But people don't really see what Congress is up to much than anything else. So there probably is some truth to a lot of irresponsibility around their voting or showing up on time or being in particular places when they need to be. I don't know, but I'm willing to believe it.
Yeah, look, that's obvious. The fact that they have clung to him up until this point, and then they might want to show that they're awesome by kicking him out makes them look bad. But also for George Santos, wait, so you've been seeing all of this stuff for like a year or two now, and now you're only telling us? Yeah. Like, it seems like you don't really care about them being unqualified for their jobs and screwing people over and getting drunk on. Like, it seems like you're only using that now that you're about to be kicked out of the club. That's weird. That maybe makes all the rest of them look bad, but it doesn't make you look good at that point. Yeah. Neither do your cover stories. He sort of concludes this long rambling interview that he does by saying that his decision not to seek re-election was not because of external pressure. It's because of his frustration with the arrogance of his colleagues. No, it wasn't. If you didn't think that you were going to be arrested or expelled, you'd be running again. Look, I'm wondering where he goes from here. Like, you would think once he loses a little bit of political power that he has, combined with the fact that he has no credibility, that should be it. But it's America, man. You can screw people over time and time again and still be rich and famous. So God only knows what's coming after this. I'm guessing podcast. I don't know.
You have to go independent on that, because
probably.
Don't forget, they only not care that he's gay because he's in Congress. Once he's out,
that's true.
They don't care. They in fact will actively dislike him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna set that aside for now. Stay tuned throughout the week. The vote will happen at some point. He wants it sooner. So anyway, we'll see. Let's move to another story. Not too many days ago, a middle-aged couple tragically, fatally crashed their car at the US-Canada border. And here's what happened. This was last Wednesday. Shortly before noon, a Bentley drove into the Rainbow Bridge border crossing in Niagara Falls, New York at high speed. Lost control, was launched into the air and exploded when it made contact with some of the infrastructure there at the bridge and the border. The two were declared dead, and flames were raging from the car. A person working at the crossing was injured but suffered non-life-threatening injuries, which is a miracle in its own right. So that is a crazy, tragic story. But for some, it's not enough of a story. We need something to add a little bit of spice and get a little bit more mileage out of the tragic death and of two people and the injury of another. And so the conspiracy theorizing spools up, and suddenly it's terrorism. And I want to be very clear that if you saw this news and thought it could be terrorism, I think that that is perfectly reasonable. It's at the border, there's flames, maybe there was an explosion. You can think that it might have been terrorism. But when you are stating definitively from a position of authority, either your elected office or your position in, establishment or independent media, that it was terrorism, and then try to get mileage out of it, that's not newsmaking. That's grifting. That's all that is. It's conspiracy theory grifting. And I want to run you through a little bit of it. Now, it started off with, Fox News is running 2 dead after attempted terror attack at New York, Canada border. Again, they're supposed to be a news source. You can say suspected terror attack. You can say questionable incident. They're simply saying it's a terror attack. And it wasn't just in their chyrons. It was all over Fox News. Take a look at this.
We don't know how long the people who perpetrated this attack have been in this country. Did they recently come across? Did they come into the country legally? Did they come across illegally and claim asylum? Were they some of the nearly 1 million gotaways who've come into this country?
And what happened at the border today sent chills through most Americans. It was scary. People didn't know if it was a terrorist attack. We didn't know exactly what was happening or what the motive was. It made us ask ourselves, could it have been related to the open border policies of the administration? Was it simply an accident? We don't know, but it caused us all to think.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul holding a news conference and saying there was no indication of a terror attack in the car explosion at the U.S.-Canada border. We are going to monitor that. And coming up, liberal leaders think they know what's best when it comes to fighting so-called misinformation.
Yeah, so again, so-called misinformation. We don't know anything about actual misinformation, just so-called. It really makes you think. No, it doesn't. It makes you do the exact opposite of thing. I mean, I guess you're thinking about how you can get something out of the tragic death of 2 individuals, but all of them. It wasn't just this could be terrorism. It was terrorism. It's because of the border. It's because of Biden. It's because of the million gotaways. And they just start thinking, what can I get from this? And it's not just the media. Ted Cruz posted this. This confirms our worst fear. The explosion at Rainbow Bridge was a terrorist attack. Both attackers are dead and 1 law enforcement officer is injured. I am praying them, blah, 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 blah. This confirms our worst fear. By the way, do you see what confirms our worst fear? A post by Benny Johnson. What the hell is that supposed to be worth? That is a senator, a United States senator, saying a right-wing grifter posting his Islamophobic fantasizing is proof that this is a terror attack. Now, he eventually deleted that message. We can have a conversation about which is worse. The people who deleted it after posting it, those who just left it up and pretend that it's still, like Charlie Kirk says, here's the very moment the terrorist vehicle exploded. I think on his show, he eventually admitted that it was not terrorism, but a lot of them are they're leaving those posts up, including one of the most important people on Twitter, which would obviously be Cat Turd, who said nothing to see here. It was just 2 rich adults in a nice car driving 100 and purposefully ramping to their suicidal deaths because they were mad at a Kiss concert being canceled. Farting sound. It definitely wasn't terrorism, though. No, it was just that thing that you said. I mean, you added up like purposefully ramping up or whatever. It was 2 people who tragically died in a car accident. By the way, Katzer, did you know that like many tens of thousands of people die in fatal car accidents in the United States every single year? It's a tragedy. It's not a terrorist tragedy. So anyway, this shouldn't be surprising to us. Everything is a conspiracy theory. It's not conspiracy theories anymore. It's conspiracism. It is a worldview where everything has to be whatever I want it to be. And you see that filtered through people who are incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy, and they're all over the place. I apologize, Jayar. What do you think? You've muted yourself. I didn't mute him. Don't have a conspiracy
You are
theory.
lying to me.
Am I?
I was unmuted the entire time. So I was going to drop my huge metal can of water like last time. There's all kinds of thoughts people have when things like this first happen. The first thought I had was, I wonder if someone had some kind of medical emergency in that car and end up slamming on the gas and smashing through, because that's something I think about. It's just the way my brain works. Doesn't mean it's right, but usually when I think that, I would go, man, I wonder if that happened. And then you go, let me find out if I'm right. Instead of then going, you know what, breaking news, I wondered something, therefore it's now fact. That's only the case if your motivation for thinking a certain way is to push something else afterwards. So of course, to push something afterwards is, now how about this Biden agenda in the border? I thought you guys were always complaining about the southern border. So now, this is the Canadian border, am I right? Am I losing my mind?
This is Canadian border, yeah.
So then Canadian border is now where we can say, look, I've been telling Joe Biden to do something about that border. I told Donald Trump was gonna build a wall. So, it's not connecting to all of your normal hateful things that you say to have a political argument about things, to jump straight to these types of conclusions. And yes, we always hear about how conservatives never want to talk about the culprits behind any kinds of attacks, domestic terror attacks, from school shootings to club shootings to the middle of the streets shootings. It doesn't matter, to grocery store shootings. They never have any answers, even when we have answers about the culprits, ever. But when we have nothing here, it's already straight to the first fears. You can have those wonders. You can wonder if it's a terror attack. It makes sense to think so, but you don't have to go to that next step and then have, that really stuck out to me too, John. A senator of the United States of America followed some guy who does a podcast. And I would say the same thing. If you tweeted out something, John, and then a senator says, confirmed, John Iadarola said so, I'd go, man, this guy needs to calm down. John,
I know.
Just tweaking.
Yeah, 100%. Like we were talking about, the speculation that it was a hate crime in the shooting of the 3 students of Palestinian descent. If I just tweeted, it was a Patriot Front hate crime. They planned it, boom. And then Bernie Sanders is like, this proof, like, what are you talking about? But it's totally acceptable on their side. Like Ted Cruz just deleted the tweet. He doesn't care. I guess that's better than leaving it up. Not as good as taking stock of what you did and how you tried to manipulate people into advancing your own political agenda. But we have higher ethical standards than the entirety of right-wing media and their elected officials. 100%. Like it's just indisputable at this point. And then they will tell us constantly. Fox News is talking about this today on an unrelated story having to do with Joe Biden. This is why people don't trust the media. You guys just spent an entire news cycle lying about a story, and you're going to take no responsibility whatsoever for it. Maybe that's one of the reasons people don't trust the media. The issue is that while I can point that out, the hypocrisy doesn't matter because they don't want people to trust the media. They're media, and they don't want people to trust the media. It's the asymmetric battlefield that this political battle is being waged on, that we're trying to buttress support in a thing that we're criticizing, and they're trying to lower support for what they are. And they'll make money either way.
One thing it illustrates is that if you believe your stance has to be built in some kind of fear or hate, you have to build up the fear and the hate for your stance to still have any kind of standing. So any opportunity you can, you got to keep building that foundation for your actual conclusion, which is always the hate and the fear.
And by the way, if it turns out, Jayar, that, oh wait, no, actually, we now find out that it was a terror attack. They leased a Bentley, and then they did this as a terror attack. You know what we would do? We would tell you that because we're just giving you the best information we have access to. Why does it have to be wrapped up into like the core of who you are as a person? And I do know why it has to for them because they're, again, trying to get something political out of it. Whereas I'm just trying to educate people about the actual thing that happened. Anyway, we're going to take our second break because when we come back, we got a wild story involving deep fakes of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That and more after this. Okay, everyone, let's jump into some messages. Sarah Layla, member for 3 months, says, I seriously, in all caps, miss the Watchlist live, of course. Jayar, you're my favorite, with a bunch of hearts.
Oh, sorry, my mic was with me. Thank you. I missed you guys too, man. It's been a while. I haven't missed it. I haven't mentioned any California Golden Bears or anything lately. I feel a little bit like, incomplete.
Yeah, I miss it too. Jay Hawker, member for 6 months, says Santos claims he has dirt on members of Congress that'll spill if they vote him out, but he lies. It will still be fun to watch. Yeah, like I hope that he does. Again, we won't necessarily be able to trust it, and we'll wonder why it is that he held on to it until the very end or whatever. But sure, burn the house down. I don't care about the house. I don't care if you figuratively burn it down. When a mob tries to actually burn it down, that's when I have a bit of a problem. Michi28, welcome to membership on YouTube. Glad to have you here. Shiva, member for 6 months, says, to quote Anthony DeVolder, George Santos is so fetch. Nice. Anthony, member for 33 months at tier 3, says, hope you guys had a great holiday. What did I tell you about Zoe Stark? I predict she'll be a champion within a year. Most contenders rely on maximizing 1 or 2 attributes. Zoe has a much more expansive skill set. What do you think, Jayar?
She has another couple years. She got a shot, but that means they're gonna know. No, she's not gonna have.
Yeah, she won't get another shot for a bit. I think she is wildly athletic and talented. They need much more time for her to develop a relationship with the audience. She needs more time on the mic, develop a real character. But she's starting off in a very good position, and she is like, she's not, as like overwhelmingly strong as people like Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez and a few others, but she's got some moves. So I am liking her a lot more than I thought I would when she was first called up. And with that, we're gonna move.
ZS Punk should be her name now.
ZS Punk. I like her finishing moves. Z360 is pretty good. I do like it. Anyway, sorry everybody. Tie-dyed Terra Drag has been here for 24 months. It's 24 months and Raising the Roof with John and Jayar. That was just for podcast listeners, everyone. You're gonna confuse people. Stop raising the roof.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You'll also embarrass yourself.
Probably, like I did. Thank you. Golden Donut Dragon, thank you. Vengeful has been here for 40 months, just at the big 40. Thank you very much. Rennie Artis, been here for 26. Flat Chillance? Oh, I see what you did with that. You got me. He's been here for 9 months, thank you. Bohemian Dragon, Tiger Lily for 42, says so much love and returned. Yukon Man for 26 says carry on TYT, and you as well. Woody Invincible's been here for 25 months, says woohoo, always happiest when I can resub during TDR. I am also happiest for that too. Okay, let's see. Brett Campbell in the members comment says, be sure to catch George Santos and Madison Cawthorn's Bitchin' About Our Peers tour this summer. If they did a tour where they just went and did like stories from their server, I bet that would be a great grift for them. They should do that. That's a good idea.
If they showed up in LA, would you go with that tour?
If they said they were going to really reveal stuff, maybe.
What was the name of the tour?
Really
the name of the tour was really
the Bitchin' About Our Peers tour. I like it. You know what? I like it enough that Brett Campbell, aka Dragon My Ass, if you have not already gotten a $100 Blue Apron gift card, you just did. And so send an email to rewards@tyt.com with your handle, and they should get you set up. Okay, we got 20 seconds. Let's see. Spiral C, member for 17 months, says the tweet of skunk fur face Ted Cruz confirms that he is not the brightest. That's all. Yeah, he was one of those that was supposed to be this like outside thinker when he first became a politician or whatever. No, he's just a grifter like so many of them. Okay, we'll be right back. We were talking about the possibility of Madison Cawthorn and George Santos doing some sort of like live show, and Skittlebutt Dragon Rasp in the comments says, wouldn't that be a drag story hour? Weren't they both outed as doing drag? Yeah, it's weird how politics works out. But anyway, I would see it. Okay, with that said, here's something I don't like seeing. Take a look at this.
Ceasefire means that somebody sees a fire. It could be any kind of fire. It could be a big fire or a small fire, a bonfire or even a candle flame. It just matters that somebody sees a fire. That's why we call it a ceasefire.
I really, really hope that every one of you who just watched that gets that that is not the actual video of AOC talking about ceasefires or candles or whatever. That's a deep fake. It was manipulated video that put words into her mouth that she didn't actually say. I hope that everybody gets that. But apparently they did not, because Reuters had to do an actual fact check. You can see right here, the video of Ocasio-Cortez explaining ceasefires is digitally altered. Now, look, them choosing to do a fact check doesn't prove that people didn't get it, but people's responses to it sure seem to indicate that they didn't understand that that was manipulated. That clip was shared on Facebook and Instagram, And there were comments like, stupid is as stupid does. And this is who is in charge of the country. No wonder we're in such bad shape. And I've honestly seen more educated people at the community level. Also, is she actually graduated from the 2nd grade? How did you not get that that's fake? Like, I love the idea of aggressively, confidently accusing another person of being stupid while you don't get that you're being manipulated by something that obviously isn't true. And I want to show you a few other examples too that I curated from where it was posted on Twitter. This person says, AOC, stop speaking about things you know nothing about. As long as there are hostages in Gaza, there will be no peace. There will be no ceasefire. This is one of the most basic things about military engagement that you clearly have yet to understand. And then another person who says, gotta be a deep fake. Yeah, but you're saying that as if you're not 100% sure. How are you not 100% sure that that's fake? Now, look, there's lots of this stuff going around. AOC's been a target of it by a lot of times. But JR, this is a demonstration of how dangerous this stuff is that we always talk about how the technology is going to get better. It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to be plausible because people are so desperate to believe things about those they despise that they utterly suspend their disbelief. What do you make of it?
It's what they've got figured out. It's one of the other things. Maybe because we look at video all day and I have to look at it closely and analyze and edit. It took 3 words before I knew that that was off. Nowhere near the way her mouth could move to say the words that you were hearing. It just didn't. If nothing else, the first thing you think is, oh, the audio is off. They need to fix it. And then you go, wait, no, actually, this is not. This is just ain't it. I guess my first thought was going to be good thing these things haven't gotten as good as they're going to get, which then we're in serious trouble at that point. But good things this thing haven't gotten where we got yet because there's no way people are going to believe this on a wide scale. The way that people on the internet love to jump straight to something so fake, even something that sometimes is real, oh, this is totally fake. Now the stuff that's obviously fake, enough people are buying still. I guess when it comes to politicians, when it comes to, I guess, normally boring things that the general community doesn't talk about, like wars and murdering people on mass scales, ceasefire so that maybe folks don't have to continue to go through devastation like this for at least 4 days, then those type of things are too boring for enough people to care enough about, to pay enough close attention to then say widely. Yo, you know that they're doing deep fakes of politicians just saying would-be normal things. Instead, they manipulate it so they can change the anger and discussions around these things. I don't know. Bro, I've been concerned about how this is gonna take over our normal brains, our normal thought processes for a decade. And here we are, and here we are.
Yeah, I remember you talking about people being zapped way back in the day, and now it's happening.
Who clowned me for that, John? Who clowned me for that?
Probably Jank, but also me at home. That was before I worked there. But anyway, but it's so bad. Yonek in the Twitch chat said that's a shallow fake. But again, it doesn't have to be that deep. Also, what is the purpose of that viral video? You don't need to respect people who are calling for a ceasefire because they're stupid. They don't actually know what they're talking about. It's a dumb thing that dumb people say. Flame on, just burn the entire Gaza down because only stupid people want a ceasefire. That's the policy part of this. The bigger issue, and I've pointed this out multiple times, is that they are desperate to believe that AOC is dumb. They just want to believe that she's stupid. They don't care that she's got degrees in international relations and economics. And you can say that you can get those degrees without being that smart. The issue is that you can't do all the public speaking without an understanding of the policy that she does. Extemporaneous, in-depth talk about a lot of different topics. And I am sorry to you right-wingers watching this, that hurts you when she demonstrates that she's not a moron. It doesn't mean you have to agree with her. It doesn't mean that she's right all the time. I don't agree with her all the time, but she isn't a dumb donkey. I'm sorry. And when you say that you believe that she is, and then you still have to fake it, you have to make fake versions of her being dumb, you prove that you don't actually think that. You have no faith in her being an idiot because then you do what people do with people on your side of the aisle. People don't need to make fake videos of Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert and Louis Gohmert. You know what videos they play? Actual videos, and they sound authentically stupid because they are. You guys have to fake it with AOC, and every time you do that, you betray that you know that she's smart and it just burns inside of you, and I love it. So I don't like that these are being spread because I know that they convince a lot of people, but it's a reminder of how fake their supposed disdain for her actually is.
Nice, John. I agree. Number two, the last thing this guy said, and this is one of the people who's angry about it. This is in charge of our country. They're targeting people who don't think either, because there's no way this one congresswoman is in charge of this country.
But yeah, they're not even in charge of the House, you dum-dum. Anyway, let's jump to our last story. We have less than 2 months now before the Iowa caucuses. The Republican race is in the final legs before we know, is Donald Trump going to do like a knockout punch there? Is it going to be a little bit more muddled? And Republican donors, like the taste makers on the right, are trying to figure out who is the person who's going to challenge him. And suddenly, it's looking like Nikki Haley's time to shine, according to those people. I don't necessarily get it, but they're convinced. People like Jamie Dimon, apparently very impressed with her policy knowledge. Sure, compared to Ron DeSantis, I'm sure she knows a lot. But anyway, Kenneth Langone, billionaire co-founder of Home Depot, told the Times that he remains undecided, but was, quote, very impressed by Haley. I think she's a viable candidate. I would certainly like her over Trump. He's also donated to her. Now, a lot of people thought that DeSantis would be the guy because they had apparently never seen him or listened to him speak. But anyway, he's apparently not impressing people at this point. Nikki Haley has sort of taken that position, with some saying there's a, quote, electric energy surrounding her campaign. Okay, let's see if we can see some evidence of the electricity, some crackling. Well, here's what we have. If we jump ahead to graphic 4, you're gonna see the polling, which the takeaway of this polling is that Donald Trump is increasingly locking this thing up. But what you can also see, if you zoom in super tight, and I hope that you've got a large phone, is that Nikki Haley is getting closer to Ron DeSantis for second place. Now, it's a second place that will be a bare footnote in history for this race, but she is getting closer. And if you look at Iowa polling, again, drawing close in that caucus, she could maybe get second place. And in New Hampshire, she's actually up in New Hampshire. What? Ron DeSantis is in fourth. So I don't know, Jared, maybe there is an electric energy. Maybe it's her time to rise up and then be struck down by Donald Trump, who is not going to be beat by any of these chuckleheads.
I've been saying this for a while, bro. I've been saying it for a while. If Republicans, as many thoughts and opposing viewpoints as they've got, I think their best bet is Nikki Haley. Enough of them need to realize it and think about it. Yes, she said some outwardly crazy things. We know that. All of them have. But I'm just trying to think in the realm of what they'd want to do as far as folks who want to move past Donald Trump. Because I think a lot of them think they're stuck with him, obviously from the numbers of him trouncing everyone. But if there has to be some kind of concerted effort to try and change the narrative around who it is they can support, because they tried with Ron DeSantis, and boy, did that flub. And just kind of that even from the intro over on X, it's a flub from the beginning. So this is, I think, their best bet. She sounds the smartest. She has some experience with foreign policy, even though, again, her opinions and plans for these things don't appear to be the most helpful. But she at least knows what she's talking about, to fool enough people to make them think that she can do this job better than Joe Biden. They got to try and ride this out, but they just don't have enough firepower to go her way for this type of stuff, man. But man, how disappointing is Ron DeSantis if this is what's happening now with them?
Yeah, he gets like totally upstaged by her. She clearly has a better understanding of policy than Ron DeSantis. She wears a heel way better than Ron DeSantis. Like, she's just a better overall candidate. Now, bear in mind, she could have been a more standout candidate compared to the others if multiple years ago she hadn't like sold out the supposed respectability of her as a politician to supporting Donald Trump and all that, which she did. Like, she's not the person she would have you believe that she is, but still, compared to a lot of these insane people, comparatively better on some topics. Also an old school neocon when it comes to foreign policy. So
every one of them sold out to Donald Trump too. Chris Christie, his tough talk. I love what Chris Christie says about Trump. Chris Christie was Donald Trump's debate partner in prep in his first run. Let's keep it real. Kissed his ass, told him to get on that plane. Get on the plane, Chris. Get out of here, Chris. Have an Oreo, Chris. Actually, stop eating Oreos, Chris. Don't forget, he sold out to him too before he finally figured out he had a different lane to go by. By the way, one last thing, John. We were talking about the money people, the diamonds and all these people, the CEOs of Home Depot. Once the money people start talking about who they like, that's what generates any kind of buzz and push, because they're like, oh, they're going to pay us. Whoever has the money controls this party and controls all parties. Let's keep it real. In politics, it's how they operate. So once they're talking, we see what they would like. Let's see if they get what they like.
Okay, we'll see. Look, if she does get in a second place, I can only imagine the insane stuff Donald Trump is going to say about her. I mean, for fairly obvious reasons, I think. But anyway, stay tuned for that. That is unfortunately all the time and more that we have for the first hour of the show. Thank you everyone who's been watching. More to come in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody. I'm John Iadarola. Jayar Jackson joins me now. JR, thank you for being here.
Go ahead and release them, fellas and ladies.
Oh, geez. Feel free to do that. We're gonna read a few of your comments and get into some news. And Bronco's been a member for 3 months. Thank you, and Bronco, much appreciated. Also, I love this comment on Twitch from Octosquiddies, who said, this is in reference to Nikki Haley. It said, second place is first loser, or whatever Vin Diesel said, family. Oh, I miss those movies. I gotta watch them again. No big deal. My wife was in the 5th movie. No big deal, everyone. Stop freaking out. She was in the 5th one, which was when it got good again. It's not a big deal. Everybody sit down. Stop raising the roof. Okay.
Give me the time codes and scenes.
I will. Anyway, I want to let everyone know that for our tier 2 and tier 3 members on YouTube, we do a top 10 list every week. Well, Francesca's out, so it's going to be solo. And because she's away and she can't stop me, I'm going to do the nerdiest one I've possibly ever done before. So because, I do writing on my separate Patreon thing, and it's fantasy, I'm going to be doing top 10 fantasy settings. Like a nerd. I'm mostly doing this just to bother Bart if he's paying attention to this. But anyway, that'll be coming up a little bit later on today. So everyone stay tuned for that. You will not, and you will not watch it. Anyway.
Why lie?
Okay, you good to go? You want to jump into this?
I'm ready.
Let's do it then. Okay. Despite it having been obvious for years now that if you're the political party, if you're the side that is banning books, not the good guy, it's still going on all over the country. There are efforts by individuals, by activist groups, and by governments to try to ban books that they have a problem with, or books that they've never read and they just say that they have a problem with. And I want to focus on Rutherford County in Tennessee, which is like treading like new territory in the effort to ban kids from seeing books they don't like. So this is coming out of a November 6th meeting. They were talking about a decency ordinance, okay? And that prompted a discussion over this resolution. So this measure was initially intended for drag performances, like we've seen all over the country again, but its scope came to include library books. It specifically prohibited the city council from funding anything that exposed minors to materials, quote, patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community, which is a phrase that you write with words that sound big and impressive, but means whatever we don't like. That's all that it means. That's all it ever means. Bear that in mind. In response to that, the county had now promulgated in its own resolution declaring it must ensure its funds for the library system, quote, promote decency and maintain a family-friendly environment. Well, maybe certain families, while protecting children from materials reflective of prurient interests and inconsistent with the community standards. That means, like vicious violence is totally fine, but I don't know, the acknowledging that someone is bi is unacceptable. That's what it actually means. But what comes out of this is that the library system of Rutherford, which gets 60% of its budget from the county and 40% from the city, is now going to have two not compatible and potentially conflicting decency standards that they're going to have to comply with, which is obviously a conflict for the library. So to fix that situation, County Commissioner Craig Harris said, why don't you just pull your funding and do your own library? And that's a thing now that they're considering doing. City manager of Murfreesboro, Craig Tyndall, said there is a potential. It is possible to create an independent library from the regional system or independent from the Rutherford County Library to create a new library or a new library system. And that is amazing for a couple of reasons. It's amazing that we have finally gotten to the point where there's interest in building libraries, but only so that we can ban more books. And then we can fund whatever's left of it. I guess a couple copies of the Bible or something, maybe the Da Vinci Code. And that's it. That's the library that's acceptable that the government will fund. And all the books, are accurate histories and everything. That'll be at the rundown library that the government is no longer funding. It's truly an amazing day for readers in America. Jayar, what do you think?
Amazing day for readers in America, but still, we'll still say we don't have money for other normal things, but they're ready to start a brand new libraries because there's a book or two in the current ones that they have an issue with because it's some kind of purity test that they could never pass. But still, this has been the latest crusade for them to go with. I think they have some kind of meaningfulness to their lives. They need to keep trying to pick some kind of thing to show how much better they are than anyone else. It's a constant renewal of, wait, Let's go ahead and try and show people that we're better than other folks. Let's say that you're a disgusting, immoral person because you're okay with a book being in a library, which, by the way, the kids they're trying to protect from reading or hearing about whatever it is that they think they're keeping them from reading or hearing about, those kids will find that out anyway. I'm not sure if they are on this train yet in whatever Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but there's this thing called the internet. Yeah. And these children know how to get on it way better than you do, Gretchen. So the fact that you think you're blocking, because kids flock, all these 12-year-olds flock to the library, the public library, to go and check out those disgusting books so they can get some weird thoughts in their heads and then go home and start touching each other. What do you think is really happening? How do you think these books then lead to whatever kind of immoral, disgusting, sexualized behavior that you think is happening in a book, bro? In 2023, in a book, a hardback, paper, flipped page book. I want you guys to ask any 12-year-old you know. I'll be like, yeah, so would you pass up your chance at an iPad with anything you can search for it? Or would you rather go down to the Murfreesboro Free City Library and go look up the disgusting things that they have back in the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, or you go to the government one and you could get, again, the Bible and the Art of the Deal, I think, or something like that. Or a whole bunch of books just titled Triggered with like a mediocre white man on the cover. You could, like, there's 30 of them, Triggered. You could read those. Look, I didn't used to have a dog in this fight, but now, as a parent, let me just say that I cannot conceive of my only interest in books being stopping my kids from reading them. Like, if you were lucky enough to have your kids actually want to go and explore, walk around a library and learn stuff, geez, why is that a creative impulse that you were trying to stamp out? These people are sick. Absolutely sick. Thankfully, there are people fighting against it. The director of the county library system said that the staff believes that if you have one member of the community that can benefit from a book, then you're supposed to have it. Says that the librarians might have to all be replaced. But the thing is, again, is asymmetric battlefield. The right doesn't care if this kills all libraries. They're not actually interested in having a decent library. They would be fine with no library. That is one of the many difficult positions that we find ourselves in, is that we are fighting for something. They just want low taxes. That's really it. And then they can, if they ever want a book, if they want to buy Marjorie Greene's book, and tomorrow we'll tell you about how poorly it's doing on Amazon, they can buy it themselves. They don't need the public resources, the public goods, and they don't care if it's destroyed for everyone else. Anyway, this is accidental, Jayar, but I hadn't realized that all of the aftermath stories have something to do with parenting today. So everybody buckle up for that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read one or two quick comments and we're jumping to another story. Pharaoh Blue Blazer Dragon says, the worst part is that the Dems won't weaponize Santos, if that is his name, against the rest of the Republicans. He was vigorously defended for months, and every Republican who defended his needs to be painted with the broad brush, who cares if they finally make the correct vote? They have a track record of the wrong votes. Yeah. Alice Giggles has been here for 12 months on Twitch. Thank you for that. And let's have a little bit of fun and engage a little bit of a debate. A father's treatment of his influencer daughter has landed him in the damage report court. Today, we are going to be definitively settling a disagreement between a daughter who's engaged in a bit of good old entrepreneurial spirit, started her own content creation thing, and a father who is, according to him, trying to enforce a bit of equality between his different daughters. So here are the details of it. This guy posted on Reddit, hopefully he'll see this so he'll know what to do. Says, my daughter, who's 15, has gathered some following on social media and started to get approached by some brands to promote their products. I don't know the first thing about this digital influencer culture, but I like that she's happy creating her content, so that's good. But says, I told my daughter from day one that it will be put away for her so she can access her money when she turns 18. My view is that for as long as she's a minor and unable to make more informed financial decisions, she should get by on her allowance, just as my other two children, which are both daughters, did. Now, apparently, the daughter who's now making big bucks doesn't like this, says she pointed out that I allow my other daughter to keep and spend the earnings from her babysitting gigs. It's a ridiculous comparison because a teen having some pocket money from babysitting as a compliment to their allowance doesn't even begin to compare the kind of money my other daughter is making now. But it's a fair point, and I gave her that. No, you didn't. I mean, you acknowledged the point, but you didn't at all shift your position based on it. So you'd give her anything. But anyway, he has a compromise. So I told her we can use this as a reference. We could take an average of what her sister was earning with babysitting, or what her brother was earning flipping burgers in the fast food industry, or what most teenagers would realistically be expected to earn in this phase of life. I said I'd agree to take a similar amount from her earnings every month so she could complement her allowance, but the bulk of it would still be put away until she turns 18. So we're gonna get to some of the faults, but I am curious. I want to jump in and get your thoughts since you are a parent as well. Is he guilty being wrong in stopping her from using the money that she is going out there and earning by the content that she's producing?
I need some clarifications on his compromise. He's gonna allow her to have the same amount of money that he said before.
So basically,
she
they all
shouldn't
get
more.
allowance.
She shouldn't get more than what her sister got as a babysitter and all that stuff. That's what he said before. Then the compromise came, okay, we'll do it this way. You get the same amount that your sister got babysitting and your brother got flipping burgers. Where's the compromise? He just said, well, our compromise is we'll do what I said.
No. So I can explain that. So initially it was just she gets her allowance. And she said, well, my sister also makes a bit of extra money as a babysitter. So a compromise is you can get like the average of what this side hustle would bring in, but you can't bring in, the thousands or whatever it is that you're making off of your content.
Well,
what do you think?
His kids are already getting by because the allowance, I thought, ends once you get a job, bro. That's why you get a job, so I can stop paying you this allowance. Anyways, but okay, his kids get the double pay. Great. This is one of those instances where I would probably give more leeway to my kid because it's my kid. I know my kid. I know how he may be, at least currently. He's not 16 or 15 yet. But I think I could give him more leeway. He won't be one of those radical, irresponsible children who go wild with their money and then do stupid things. And next thing you know, they're flashing it and then they get assaulted. All that stuff that could happen with a kid who's just wild and gets a chance to run around with their money and just do whatever they want with it. So I get that. And I think there is a protection involved with his father doing it. So this is one of those cases where I'm like, oh, it kind of sucks for that kid. That's your father. It's his idea. Go for it. Like, I can't judge him on that. Everybody's kid is different and everybody responds to their kid differently. And I have to go with the assumption that this guy knows what he's doing with his parenting and with his particular kid. She's gonna be okay. As long as he's not ripping her off and taking her money behind closed doors like we've seen some celebrity parents do historically throughout the time. But as long as he's honest and he's actually gonna get her money when she turns 18, I think it's a little bit too strict. But who am I to say anything about this guy? So not guilty for the father.
Okay, not guilty. Who you are is Justice Jackson. That's who you are. So you're saying not guilty.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, look, he says he's not taking any of the money. The rest of the family isn't taking any money. It's all being put away. We have no idea if any of this is true. This is just what they say is happening. Right. Yeah, so it is very difficult, I think, to accept that your hard work that you're doing has no real immediate impact for you. And I think that overall, it's probably better that you allow it to just accrue interest, maybe invest it or whatever in an index fund. And then by the time she gets to be 18, is a whole bunch more money. But kids aren't gonna accept that. They want the money now. It's difficult to imagine the future. You think you're always gonna be 14 or whatever. And so that is very difficult. On the other hand, if I think about when I was 15, if I was suddenly pulling in like $1,000 a week, man, I'd be wasting some money. But isn't it your money to waste? Because you didn't make it. So look, I don't know the kid. I don't know how responsible she is, but she's working hard. And honestly, wasting all of that money could itself be a life lesson. So I think in this case, I'm going to have to rule guilty. I think that you gotta give her the chance to fail. I'm not saying this is how I will run things in my own family. I am a hypocrite as a justice, but anyway, that's what I think. And so we unfortunately have a split decision. So we apparently is so often the case need to go to Twitch, where the voting is in. Is the father treating his influencer daughter unfairly? No. So that would be not guilty. And Jayar Jackson's side wins the day. Apparently, most people think that you should have these heavy restrictions on the spending, or I guess the ability to access the money of a kid. And the thing is, honestly, like this may seem like a random thing, like how many people have a 15-year-old who's bringing in big money, but way more than used to. I think this is not like a couple of child actors or something. Lots of kids, I think, are posting YouTube videos and TikToks and stuff like that. So anyway, this is something that could strike home. So prepare.
Absolutely.
That's the ruling of the court.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The court is quite smart. I agree.
I think they are. I like the way that they ruled. Anyway, okay, with that said, we're gonna move on to one more story in just a sec. Reminder though, we do have the top 10 list, which is gonna be coming up a little bit later on. We're back to doing the tier 3 members hangouts, by the way. So everyone prep for that. If you want to become a tier 3 member, if you're already one, we can have a little bit of fun. And with that, let's jump to something a little bit more serious. Yet more evidence that spending quality time with a newborn can fundamentally alter a father's brain and have a lasting impact on the way they parent. There's apparently this important early time that can remake the brain and have long-lasting impacts. This is coming out of the University of Southern California. They found that adult neuroplasticity is affected by these sorts of experiences. By spending quality one-on-one time with a newborn, changes observed in fathers' brains correspond with a similar change in mothers' brains in response to parenting, caregiving, pregnancy, and lactation. So I think most people just accepted that that sort of thing happened with mothers, but spending a lot of time early on can have a similar effect on fathers. There was a study of first-time fathers in Spain versus those in California. The fathers in Spain experienced changes in the brain associated with sustained attention. Researchers determined the changes could translate to them being better prepared for the emotional and cognitive demands of fatherhood. Now, why did they compare those two groups? Well, because like 63%, I believe it is, of countries around the globe have guaranteed paid paternal leave. We, the richest, best country in history, don't. And you're lucky if you get literally any time. Now, I was lucky enough that I did get 12 weeks to spend with my newborn, but lots of fathers are not that lucky. And this is now indicating that this is not just a short-term thing that's being stolen from the parent and from the child, from the family. It has a long-term impact. Yet more reason, from my point of view, JR, that we should finally legalize paid paternal and maternal leave.
The hardest thing as far as coming up with, I guess, some support behind this when it comes to politicians who think that it's badass or American to say, like, why aren't you getting your ass straight back to work? What's the matter with you? Especially as a father, they're the same people who will talk about where are the fathers in the empty households. Where are the fathers? Fathers are necessary. We need a 2-parent household. Yet we still have policies that automatically make that a 1.5-parent household or a 1-parent household or a half-parent household, because many times people have to do other things to get straight back to work, to go ahead and fill back in the gaps to help pay more into the system to give to rich folks. Okay, but this is the way it always has worked. So we're very hell-bent on making sure more and more people are right straight back to work. So all those principles about family and raising kids right and why are the 2-parent households, they're saying that's bluster. They don't really care about those things. Those aren't principles. Their principles are always based in money. Because again, these folks, these legislators, they're in office because they're paid by, again, more money folks. This is the cycle. It's constantly just about money. Everything else they feed you is to convince you of something else so they can get back to the money. Don't be fooled. It's more about the money. It's right back again to the money. And then after that, it's money. They don't care about your family. Think about it. When your kid's in school, do they care about him then? When your kid is in a threatening situation at school, do they care about him then? Your kid is sick and it costs all this money for the kid to go through whatever kind of treatments or then even doctor visits. Do they care about him then to have policies that support you in those situations? They only have policies that support you in them saying, we care about your family system and situation. When it comes to you actually contributing to your family in that situation, what are you doing? This isn't Venezuela. What's the matter with you? They start dogging you out and telling you you're not American, because the American way is to forget them kids and get your ass back to work. What do you think this is, a free country? I'm telling you, bro. But studies like this that talk about exactly how connectivity happens between family members and how actually you raise kids that are more well-adjusted to society and actually being able to understand who they are, if they have any kind of mental health concerns or even who they are as far as identity-wise, no matter what. Those things, if those get cultivated, we have a lot less of a volatile society, which is something else we complain about. If you try to connect the dots to folks who want to just go with the you're a softie and I'm a badass, you don't get very far. And it's too bad, because many of our politicians are pushing those arguments constantly over and over and over again. And they've convinced enough people the same.
Yeah, that was great. Sebastian Fritz says, please make this a short. That should be clipped out as a short. I really like that, Jayar. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they protect via law those that have the power to make them do what they want, which is corporations and the wealthy. That's it. Not regular workers, not regular parents. That's just the case. And they use all of these insidious, dishonest tools to get you to be okay with that. So many conservatives don't think that the men should get time off. They don't think they should get time off because they've been convinced by Fox News that it's not manly. Oh, look at Pete Buttigieg. He wants time off with his kid. Oh, it's feminine what he's doing. This is how they manipulate you into giving up your rights and being perfectly fine with your own subjugation. That's what they do. It doesn't matter if it hurts you and hurts your kids and hurts your family or whatever. That's what they care about. That's what they'll do. And we shouldn't be okay with it. We should be pushing for this federally. A number of states have thankfully set up some sort of protected leave, but everybody should have access to this. I just spent 4 days caring for my daughter. And you know how like people always say, parenting a kid is a full-time job. No, it isn't. Because a full-time job ends at 5. Parenting doesn't. It's not one full-time job. It is multiple full-time jobs. And when you have to go back to work after a couple days or a week, it is madness to think that a family can survive in that situation. It's madness that we allow it. And so we should be doing a lot more. We're going to be talking a lot more about it on the show. Okay, that's unfortunately all the time we have. I have a lot more that I wish I could have said. There's no time, JR, as always. Thank you for being here and for filling in on JR-tastic Monday.
No, it's good stuff, John. Your daughter's lucky that you guys got to have that connection. It's an inexplicable connection.
Yes,
I'm glad you got it, bro. She's gonna
feel very lucky.
You have a different relationship even when she's 30. If you didn't,
thank you,
guys.
And I want everybody to get that. Thank you, JR. We'll talk soon. Everybody, I'm going to go film a top 10 list, top 10 fantasy worlds. This one's going out to all the nerds out there, but it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be up for the members in just a little bit. Thank you all for watching. For now, though, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. See you soon.